Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome and thank you all for taking out time today to join this webinar. This is an exciting and trending topic, and as the pandemic slows down, travel opening up and guests looking to book the accommodations, it is certainly important that hotels are ready to attract this new traveler. So we're going to have a very engaging next 60 minutes webinar on the chain traveler and how to get them to book hotel directly. So let me first ask each one of you, if you can see me and you can hear me clearly, please send me a smiley or type in a yes in the chat box to confirm, please. So we know that everybody is able to hear us. All right. Thank you very much. Now we'll have a short poll and informal icebreaker. And may I request you all to participate in this poll and see how this icebreaker pans out. So you will see a couple of options on your screen. That's an interesting mix. So web series seems to be really gaining ground over here. It's interesting. People are also going into gardening and cooking. Web series, definitely hands down, web series wins the poll for this. Thank you very much for sharing that insight. I'm going to end the poll now, but our winner over here definitely is web series. 17% has gone to not on the list. I'm not sure what we have forgot, but we can definitely do a little research and come back next time. And I'm just going to share results with you guys so everybody can see that. All right, thank you. So we have an exciting panel today. Our expert on the subject is joining us from Thailand. Well, that's where currently he is, though he's basically from Italy and travels around a lot. And our panelist is from New Delhi, India. I'm sure not only will you enjoy the session, but we'll get some great tips from our expert and panelists and answer to your queries related to the new traveler and their expectations and how to attract. So without any further delay, let me introduce our expert and a panelist. So for today, this session, our subject matter expert is Mr. Alessandro Crotti, and he is a web marketing and revenue expert for independent hotels. He's a hotel management graduate with certifications from Cornell on data-driven marketing, Google Analytics, and has close to about 2 decades of experience, which is evenly split between hotel operations, revenue management, e-com, and currently he's into digital hospitality consulting. He currently owns a company called Direct Your Bookings. I'll definitely like that name, which is just not an agency, but a group of hotel industry experts and freelance professionals who are passionate about web marketing, branding, revenue, and distribution. Alessandro's goal is to help independent hoteliers across globe boost their online performance. So he will be our leading the session, and he's our expert on the subject matter. Joining him is our panelist, Mr. Aditya Ray. He's an experienced revenue management professional with deep domain knowledge of travel distribution platforms and hotel operations. He's also a hotel management graduate, having various certifications from Cornell in revenue management 360, hospitality, digital marketing, and hotel revenue management. He started his career with Oberoi Hotels and Resorts, and after spending about 4 years with the group, he moved to Australia for further studies while working at Windsor, Melbourne. Post-return from Australia, he joined back Oberoi Group and later worked with various hotels handling operations for a bit and later getting into revenue management. Currently, he is Group Revenue Director for Hotel Claridge's. Claridge is one of the heritage properties located in New Delhi in India, and the group has another one hotel in Missouri. Finally, me, I'm Deepak Chauhan, and I'm going to be the moderator for this session. I currently manage Prologic First cloud-based hospitality tech division, the new SaaS-based software platform that is called as mycloud. Prologic has been in hospitality technology space for over 2 decades now, and its hospitality tech stack is used by some of the finest hotel brands across globe. The new SaaS-based platform offers amazing technology and single integrated software that is helping hotels manage operations, guest experience, and hotel administration. I'm here to make this session as exciting and informative as possible. So let me extend a warm welcome to our expert and our panelists, and of course, all our participants. Now, let's set up some ground rules for the webinar. As you have noticed, the voice is disabled. This is to avoid any unnecessary interference so that our expert or panelist is not getting disturbed. You're all most welcome to share your thoughts, comments in the chat mode. And if you have any questions, please hit Q&A button to ask your question anytime during the session. What I would request is please share your name, your hotel name, and property size in terms of rooms, and of course, your question. This is to ensure that panelist has a fair idea of property so they can answer the question. You can give an open question or request our expert or panelist to answer this question. I'm just going to set stage for all of this webinar, and then we will bring in our expert and our panelist for the discussion. And I just have a couple of slides that I'm just going to run by. So as the saying goes, there is a light at the end of tunnel for the hospitality industry as it is clawing back its way back from the devastation of 2020 pandemic-driven shutdowns. That doesn't mean things are back to normal or even new normal, whatever that means. But the industry is rebounding to a desired future state that is vastly improved from 2020 and 2021. It's important to remember the industry was healthy and shattering records before the pandemic hit. Another emerging trend, which unfortunately has from marketing aspect, has a very wrong name, which is called as a leisure travel, where business travel is combined with a leisure or tourism. The new term refers to blended travel, but the meaning is the same. A business traveler adds days onto the front or back end of their business plans to relax. So if you notice over here, this is very encouraging. So APAC seems to be on a recovery path. So this is definitely encouraging. APAC's strict approach so far has led to relatively large negative impacts on inbound travel. However, the same strict approach has also helped to contain the virus, and as a result, domestic tourism has been less negatively impacted. The region's domestic outlook is stronger in the near term compared to the rest of the world because of the effect of border restrictions on the spread of the virus. And if you notice, domestic travel has restarted sooner, and its outlook is accelerating in later years. Here is an interesting study by STR. The need for Wi-Fi has certainly improved, and not just standard speeds, but guests are demanding faster connections. The touch-based services have lesser demand, and guests are preferring touchless services. A slight change, if you notice, is that human touch acceptance in food service. So hoteliers must ensure safety and hygiene. Here is another study by Amadeus Hospitality. I think the key takeaway is the use of technology and enhancing touchless operations and services. Hotels are now building special packages for the earlier mentioned leisure travel, which would not only cater to business needs, but also focus on entertainment and let the guest relax. A little background on what basically we do. At ProLogic, we've been at the forefront in designing new technologies. We have tried to stay ahead of the technology curve. I think what helped us and our teams is our team's experience in hospitality, as most of us have hospitality backgrounds. So I can proudly say that we are a team of hoteliers who are designing this new age software solutions, having experienced hospitality operation firsthand. So it's pretty much ingrained in our DNA. Even before this pandemic, we designed some of the most amazing contactless and touchless experiences that hotels can offer to their guests. May it be front desks providing zero contact check-in, or restaurants and other service outlets offering services with zero touch through guest mobiles, tablets, and voice. Cloud that we offer has certainly made it possible for hotels to adopt these technologies, which in legacy mode were certainly capex heavy. So now cloud allows them to free up their capital expense and let hoteliers take benefits of enterprise applications and features by subscribing to OpEx model. Even though contactless applications were available before pandemic, these were considered as good to have to impress guests, but now these are a must, just like a TV or a Wi-Fi in a room. So contactless, touchless, and guest experience management applications are the new ecosystem that hoteliers need over and around the core PMS application. So it is imperative that PMS can scale and connect with all the guest touchpoint applications. I'm just going to show some of the applications that we basically have. So here is our complete cloud platform, which offers various solutions and all available at a click of a button. And the best part is these are all on a single platform, and all these solutions are designed to ensure operational efficiency, better guest experience, and most importantly, a better revenue performance. I am going to share you another one very interesting slide. Now, this slide was based on the discussion that we were having with Alessandro and Aditya a little earlier. This is an interesting study by STR. Notice, even though 2023 shows a full recovery in terms of demand, the ARR and RevPAR would remain impacted. So hoteliers must look at providing add-on services and make full use of a digitized platform. And hence today we have a digital expert on our panel here who would be shedding some light on that. And here is another one, very interesting study by Medius. Notice the shift in brand.com acquisition. So the percentage is increasing. The OTA seems to be gaining ground, but brand remains strong and growing. Hence, it becomes important that hotels focus more on digital technologies and provide a better booking experience. And some of the touch points over here in this, you can see, dividing the guest journey that is happening in the hotel. So you have pre-stay, hotel stay, and post-stay. And these are all the touch points which hotels can easily, with the use of technology, actually can convert into a completely touchless. I am going to stop here and I'm going to pass on the mantle to Alessandro now. So
yes, hi.
Hi. So, Alessandro, I am going to give you a control. You already have. So, if you wish like to share your screen or you want to talk, please go ahead.
Oh, it's just about talking essentially. Eventually, I will mention some of the website in order to give examples that you might want to refer to when I talk about specific topics,
Sure.
rather than just presentation, which is a little bit cold in my opinion. So yeah, I'm here and yeah, happy to answer any of your questions.
So, do you want to shed some light on what you're doing and how you're helping the hoteliers right now in digital platforms, and what should a hotelier really do? So, see, our subject is that the guest perception is changing just because of the pandemic. I mean, everybody is looking at touchless kind of an experience. The move on to the internet is far more now compared to before the pandemic hit. So, what should a hotel really do to attract that customer and get them into the hotel?
Well, there are multiple touch points. The most important thing, in my opinion, is that we must learn to become way, way, way more proactive or even reactive, but in a faster way, in the sense that as opposed to before the pandemic, essentially, things are happening very quickly, like literally overnight. And we were talking about it before, even when we refer to, demand, is just even just a tiny little lifts in the travel restrictions may trigger a huge demand, a huge new demand of people who have been closed up for such a long time and now are just waiting and willing to go everywhere in the world, because actually the location becomes even not as much important as just about the fact of traveling. And therefore, just waiting and just being late in terms of understanding what the current situation is when the travel demand starts picking up is no longer an option. Even just 24 hours, 48 hours later may be a situation, may be a problem. Not just about the demand, actually also about the, if you take, for example, the channel mix or the marketing or the channel mix when it comes to direct, so brand.com, direct booking as opposed to third-party channels. I mean, 2020, I mean, when the pandemic happened, when the pandemic hit, the OTAs, for obvious reason, didn't manage the situation very well. And I guess that is also one of the reasons why they kind of pay the price for what happened next, in the sense that after that, first in summer 2020 and even next in 2021, well, the percentage of direct bookings more or less globally, I could say, increased or spiked definitely. Now, the situation now is starting changing as far as I can see, and with tiny little difference just as of end of the summer 2021. So essentially it was September, already August, there was already some sign of it. Even July, I would say, but okay, let's say August and more likely September, the situation started changing. And for the very simple reason that the OTAs have started investing heavily again, and probably even more so now, in the distribution. So always consider distribution being, I used to refer to distribution as a sort of playing field, in the sense that that is where you literally define whether your marketing efforts and even your revenue efforts are going to work for you as opposed to against you, in the sense that most of the times, if the distribution landscape or distribution health is not so good, whatever we invest, we do it towards the OTAs. So for the sake of the OTAs, and they're going to take advantage of it. And this is what is happening now. So there's a lot of many different things happening. Unfortunately, I have to say it's not easy to keep up with everything, especially for those who are not necessarily technology lovers, let's put it this way, in the sense that technology is running really, 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 really fast. But what I also wanted to point out is that the first and most important thing to always consider when it comes to driving more demand, to actually draining more demands and attract more customers and attract more data bookings, always the central focus is the customer. It's not the technology. It's not any tool that you might want to have. It's always the customer. Just speak the language of the customer, and you are increasing already 50% your chances of getting that customer. And I can say that by experience. Like, there are many different ways, but just tiny little things. If sometimes we forget a little bit about the technology, not at all, but forget a little bit about technology, and keep it back with what our role is as host, hospitality professionals, to deal with people. We are in the people business. Probably that is going to be a huge deal breaker, and it's going to play towards us, I think, very successfully, especially in 2022.
Well, Alessandro, what you mentioned is all right, that hotels are hospitality people. They really don't understand technology, or they really don't understand that marketing part of it. I know Aditya is smiling there, but I have a question here. And the question is that if you look at OTAs, the OTAs, the way they market themselves and the kind of money they are able to spend in the market space is huge, and they have the resources to do so. A normal hotel doesn't have that kind of bandwidth or that kind of resources, to look at the marketing or look at the spend to be done. So what kind of tools can a real hotelier use, and online tools that will attract them more direct bookings?
Well, I mean, let's consider the fact that, okay, we cannot compete with the OTAs using the same weapons, right? For the obvious reason that you just said, they have budgets that no one in the world actually can afford. And therefore, so what we can do, we'll take advantage of the funnel, in the sense that the people behaving in a certain way and people becoming even more skeptical now, even more so now after what happened in 2020, when now they realize that people traveling, they can no longer or not necessarily 100% trust the OTAs, meaning that the billboard effect is still there, and it will always be there, and probably will always be even more so there. And therefore, we have a chance to retain customers, all right? So to have an impact to people landing on our website, or to contact us by phone, by form, by whatever. How? By communicating in a better way. And when it comes to tools, I mean, there are so many tools. I would love to mention probably 3 tools that I am lately mentioning quite a lot, because I've been working very well with them, and I think they can really support us in driving more demand and more direct bookings. The first one is a CRM. I mean, there are many out there, of course, but the CRM, and not necessarily from a performance CRM, from a technological perspective, of course, because there are many different tools, of course, with many different capabilities and features. But the most important thing is then, of course, using it, because I mean, it doesn't even make any sense even to have a PMS when you record, for example, for each and every guest that you check in their birthday date, and then you have their email address, and you don't even send, for example, a nice email for their birthday wishes. This is just a very tiny little example that I'm making, but okay, this is hospitality and what exactly I was referring to. A CRM makes all these kind of things way easier and automatic, so therefore you don't have to do it everything manually in that sense. The second thing is something that I have totally fallen in love with, which is a sort of next generation booking engine, let's put it this way, which is an ABS, so an attribute-based selling system. All right, so defining an attribute-based selling system as a next generation booking engine is actually quite reductive. All right, it's not necessarily a very precise definition, for the very strict sense, for the very reason that attribute-based selling sells attributes that can be turned into benefits. A booking engine sells rooms, which is a totally different thing, all right? So now, I always made the example. We have standard room, we have classic room, we have superior room, deluxe room. What do they mean? What does standard mean? What does deluxe mean? What does superior? We know them, hospitality managers, we know that, because that is our technical terminology that we assign to rooms. But a standard room, if I ask you, okay, imagine, picture in your mind what a standard room is. each and every one of us, how many people are we? 100, 200, 1,000. We will have 100, 200, 2,000 different images in our mind because it's totally different, totally subjective. An attribute-based selling system, Swift, actually swap the way of selling our rooms, because you no longer sell technically the room, but you sell the benefit, the feature in that room. Just to make an example, is that facing east or west because you want to see the sunset? Well, okay, then you can sell the sunset, right? And then the facing west may be a feature, sorry, a feature, yeah, turn into benefit. All right, it can be like, for example, I made the example of, you know, the moquette, all right, the flooring of the room. I personally hate moquette, right? I don't like it. And so if you give me the chance of selecting a room with a wooden floor, well, I'll be willing to pay more for that, all right? Well, more likely, we don't have this differentiation because we just stuck to standard, the superior, deluxe room, or whatsoever. All right. And so this was the second one. Now I'm just making things very easier. Of course, it may be very much more complicated and stuff, but I'm just giving the example. And the third one, which is apparently very, very easy, and I am having a lot of fun using it, is a dynamic content tool. All right. So essentially, you have your website, and you have so many different people with so many different personas, so many different personalities, so many different characters, and more importantly, so many different stages of their funnel. You might have the one landing on your on your homepage or on your website for the very first time, and the one landing there for the third time in a row. And what we do is that we communicate in one way with the exact same message across everyone, and therefore there is no real customization. Now, a buzzword in the hospitality industry is experiences. How can we deploy experience if we don't start communicating in a way that is relevant to the stage, first of all, to the persona, but second of all, to the stage of the funnel that individual user is at. Just to make an example, probably you got it. First time user, welcome. For second time user, welcome back. All right. This is just a very super tiny little example, probably even too stupid, but it's just to give you an example of what it can be and why dynamic content is, to me, extremely important. Again, I just make a very simple and simplified example, but it can be used in so many different ways. Such tools don't even cost a lot. There are, I mean, if you have even WordPress plugins, so there is something that costs you like $100 per year, probably, yeah. or even one-off. I mean, it doesn't have to be something very costly. But again, I made these three examples, and the most important thing is not the tool itself, but the way we make use of them. And that is where marketing and revenue and distribution come together, because I mean, me as a marketer, I cannot do everything by myself. I need the revenue to tell me, okay, what do families like, for example? What do couples like the most? And so on and so forth. Does that answer your question?
Yes, it pretty much does. And this is a beautiful insight, actually. You know, the booking engine that is almost there on every hotel brand site, it pretty much does. It says standard, deluxe, superior, or a suite, and you go about your business, picking in the rate and then going around. But attribute-based selling, I don't think many such tech pieces actually provide, or somebody has thought of that. And the second, and I completely agree with that, that if you have a web booking engine, you need to create those customer personas so that when they come back, you know what now you should be communicating to them, rather than starting from A again. You know, he may be at a stage Z right now, ready to buy, make a purchase, but now you're again taking him back onto A and saying, let's start the journey again. So yeah, those are very, very valid points. And I think, hotels should look at it. But I just want to bring in Aditya over here, because he being an hotelier, and I certainly want to understand that, there are three beautiful points that Alessandro had made right now. And how do you think that technology is really impacting this direct booking acquisition in this term? You have a success which OTAs get it, and they probably get it because the kind of content that they publish, and they do have these at least small things that are built in, which a typical hotel website doesn't really offer. But let's understand from you, so use of technology and how it's helping you, or what you foresee or perceive, to get the guests directly into the room.
Let me just state first thing first. Hoteliers typically want a beautiful looking website, flashy pictures, very nice color scheme, but Google doesn't understand what appeals to the eye per se. It's the language that you write behind the photograph. It's the coding that you do behind what you don't see. Uh, Hoteliers typically are sold this because, rightly said, hoteliers don't understand technology. Um, they are living in 1990s as far as I'm concerned in terms of technology. I spoke to you about this when you spoke to me about this webinar. Uh, we shifted to Claridge's, as he mentioned, we've got two hotels, one in Delhi, one in Missouri. We were looking for a platform which is courtesy our company CEO. He is a visionary himself, a very pro-tech guy. So Vikram had proposed that we move to a system where we use all Protel's softwares, actually, all of the models that they have. And the beauty about mycloud was it allowed me through its open API connects to connect into something else, which is what we're using right now for our direct conversions. I have the numbers here. So we've doubled our, since the time mycloud has been in our lives, we've doubled our direct guest share. This is pure either website or guest calling up or speaking to reservations or sales or front office. We've doubled it to now it accounts for 30% of our revenues. OTA share has actually gone down by 15%. And right now it's still there, it's at 32%, but it has gone down from 45% to 32%. Having said that, I think it's just getting the content right. When the attribute-based selling that you talked about, if you look at Claridge's room names, you won't find standard room written over there or any of this. I understand it confuses the hell out of people because they're so used to the Marriott or a Hilton way of doing stuff that people don't understand. We use the booking engine Synexus, which is Saber's product. The thing is, what people don't understand is there is a world of GDS, which I am assuming that all the attendees here know, and GDS only sells through attribute. It does not sell through photographs. True. Yes, it does, but it has a lot to do with attributes. So listing your room correctly, so it's again going back to the basics. You have to get your basics right. You have to do it right in order to yield or shift business sources. So yeah, to answer your point.
I think you just validated whatever Alessandro told right now. And GDS was a perfect example because you see GDS only sells based on attributes. And it's an old tech. I mean, it's an age-old tech which was there, which sold an attribute. We forgot about it. We got onto the glamour. We did painted beautiful websites. And in all of that, we missed that basic point that, hey, the whole of the selling which was used to happen was based on attributes.
But if you allow me, actually,
sure.
just to add up to what Aditya just said, because you mentioned Sabre, the GDS, and actually, just recently, actually, I pointed out the fact that the booking engine themselves were not born as a tool to, I mean, with final customers in mind. Let's put it this way, meaning the travelers. They were born as a sort of evolution of the GDSs, in the sense that they were the GDSs, and you said it right. The GDSs were system for the OTA, for the travel agencies and tour operators, who used to have terminology, pretty technical terminology to address and to name rates and rooms. And so we mentioned before standard room, superior room, but not only that, we mentioned, technically speaking, we refer to best available rate as the best unrestricted rate, or best available rate. And we keep using that technical name, best available rate, in the booking engine, when there are other rates that are better than that. So we use the technical name, was the literal meaning is totally wrong. So we have the best available rate, $100, and then we have another rate underneath, $80. So what is the best? And you see, this is really I'm just making up the example. No, but it's really a serious problem. Now, I mean, I've been talking about this for almost 2 years now. I keep having people having this same problem. But it's literally something that comes from technicalities. When technicalities overcome the strategy, and this is really our cancer, in my opinion. Really our cancer. And I think it's time to, in my personal opinion, to move out from technology as a something objective that is there to help us or to even fix our problem, to something that needs that is there to support us, and is there to support, and it means that we need to fix the problem, we people, not the technology. That said, I shut myself down.
Well, Alessandro, as we are talking about the platforms, I think there exists a lot of confusion among hoteliers. So there is brand website, there's an OTA, and there is a meta search. What's your thoughts on those? Because I think hoteliers, are kind of divided. Some like say that meta search is the thing, and some say no, brand website should be everything. And then there is, of course, the necessary evil OTA in between. So what are your thoughts on that?
I mean, so we talk about, website booking engines, so brand.com, let's put it this way. So the direct category, and then the OTAs, and then meta search engines. So meta search engines now is, I mean, let's be honest, it's just Google. Well, not just Google, okay, but it's mainly Google. Let's put it this way nowadays. And first of all, meta search engines is not a marketing tool, it's a distribution tool, all right? So it's not, because the point is that with Meta and on Meta, you don't add any value, all right? It's just an exposure tool. It helps you expose yourself more often, and therefore being visible more often. But if we take those percent-based KPIs, like for example, conversion rate, it will not help you any further, because yes, it will get more exposure, thus more bookings, but in percentage, well, actually will drop, because advertising traffic usually converts less than organic traffic. But the point is that when my point, or at least the question that in my opinion hoteliers should be asking is, when is it the case that when is it time to invest in meta search engine, and when it is not? And the answer is not something that is related to the market, but is related to the specific data and performance of the hotel in that specific moment. I just give an example. If I have a depressing conversion rate of 1%, let's put it this way, on my brand.com, meaning that I have 100 visitors and only 1 out of 100 actually convert into bookings, is relatively useless that I invest in meta search engines, because yes, I will get more traffic, but my conversion rate in theory will remain 1%. And so I am spending more budget on something that is getting, yes, more traffic, but not necessarily converting that. So essentially I'm wasting money. And so if that is the case, instead your mix, so eventually your budget investment, your investment should go towards some other stuff, which is more organic. So first, focus on convert better your customers on your channel, even organically. And then when you are in the position that you have a very good results, a very good conversion, very good engagement rate, and so on, then you use advertising like meta search engine to scale up and to drive more traffic. That is, everything comes to, again, meta search is just advertising and is distribution, it's not marketing, because there is no value to add. So I'm not sure if that answers your question, but I mean, it does.
It does, but let's hear the hotelier's perspective also onto that, because Aditya, majorly into being revenue. I mean, he obviously is trying to optimize the ERR or RevPAR for his hotels. So how do you, adjust all of this? I mean, do you decide that, okay, I'm going to, have so much of inventory going in there, and these are the channels I want to focus, or what kind of conversions you're looking at it? But just apart from OTAs and from a GDS, do you have different strategies that other hoteliers can benefit from?
Yes, absolutely. You need to have different strategies for your website, for even Meta, as Alessandro rightly said, that it's simply visibility. It's nothing else. For example, I always keep the brand website rates lesser than what is there on the OTAs. And they're very simple tools to, or I would say cheats to do it. Every booking engine, website booking engine, once installed, does have a provision of, let's say, promo codes. So while building the rate itself, you can just put it as a description. Please use this promo code to get a 15% discount. The fact is, anybody and everybody is going to read that, apply it, and convert it on your own brand website. Instead of you giving it to, it's about acquisition. If you give a 10% discount, let's say, on your own brand website, vis-a-vis you, the OTAs will constantly push you for mobile discounts, for genius discounts, as in your locked-in discounts, and then they will ask you for advance purchase, last minute. They want you eventually, after that is where your commission goes off. So typically what you will see is your net yield is 50% almost lesser than what you wanted to perhaps gain in the first case. Whereas on your brand website, if you just do this little cheat, you could, at a 10% discount, you would convert the guest perhaps. First of all, ensure that you always remember to most of the booking engines nowadays support device-based pricing or channels. So if it's a mobile channel, yes, you can do that. Obviously, you would match, the main criteria is going to be your locked-in deals. By just doing this cheat, you can convert a direct guest. And once, typically if your service standards are great, once a guest books directly with you, that person is always hooked with you. They will not go to an OTA. And as rightly said, there weren't a lot of bad name during this COVID period. And this is what we're witnessing across board. People would be happy taking a 500 rupee discount from me and booking directly with my reservations rather than getting a genius free stay or whatever be the case. Having said that, again, for Meta, definitely use a lead rate, which is going to be very competitive with the other OTAs, even though it may not be causing a lot of disparity for you. But ensure that you bring the traffic to your own booking engine. Once it's there, now it's your home. You want to sell, it's your shop. How you want to sell it is up to you. Whether you want to use this cheat, you want to do something else, that's up to you. But yeah, you need to follow different strategies in order to get, because they've got very, very different, I would say, eyeballs is what I say.
I agree. Of course, now this conversation can go into rate parity and other things, but I'm going to reserve that for a different webinar. So, Alessandro, one simple question I think every hotelier has in mind is that, how do I get more customers? How do I get more direct bookings? What do we do?
Well, it's a $1 million question, actually. It's a very easy question, very difficult answer. Very difficult answer in the sense that, if there is someone really expecting an easy answer to such a difficult question, well, I'm sorry to be delusional.
Let me just stop you think. The little twist to this question is, what one thing can they do to get more customers? Generally, I get that asked a lot many times. But I thought, let me ask the expert here. How's he going to answer this?
One thing, okay. So the disclaimer is that there is not one thing that can help you in that sense. There are so many different, maybe smaller things. Because if I tell you one thing, what happens is that you will probably go after that one thing, thinking that everything else is not important, which is, of course, not possible. If it was easy, we were not even having this discussion, right? The OTAs will not exist, and we will not be talking about how to get more direct bookings. Instead, we have a problem because these are the guys that we have to deal with. So the OTAs, they have big budgets. We cannot compete with the same weapons, but we have to play smarter, meaning with less budget, but we way more, for example, branding, in my opinion. Branding is, branding is not just a logo, just our payoff or whatsoever. It's just the way we communicate, and the way we communicate believe me, is 100% more important than what we communicate. I mean, I can give you an example, even examples of hotels who manage to get 100% direct booking, meaning they are not even on the OTAs, just with branding, because they created a brand, of course, and they are such a big brand that they don't need anyone else other than their own direct booking, meaning no commissions. All right. So it's and that is the first thing. Second thing, be very specific, extremely specific and targeted. All right, because one of the biggest mistakes that, in my opinion, we keep doing, especially when times become tough, is that we go horizontally, try to get more custom segments without understanding that the real value, especially the real, let's say, money or revenue-wise, the ADR, let's put it this way, the real money is when you go vertical. So when you focus on specific target, it doesn't have to be just one, but some specific target, and be willing to give up on other targets. All right. So if you are not necessarily how can I say, a family hotel, don't go for family hotels, and that's it. It's pretty, actually use that to your advantage by clearly saying we're not a family hotel, and you will actually gain the loves of those one who maybe don't want to have children around. Just making an example, but is again, the example is just go vertical, be focused, don't go too broad, but just go vertical. The biggest thing that I still hate to see, allow me to say hate to see, is the perfect hotel for both leisure and business. It doesn't make any sense, because if I travel for leisure, I travel for leisure, and I want you to be the hotel, perfect hotel for leisure. When I travel for business, I want you to be the perfect hotel for business. I don't care whether you are the perfect hotel. I'm talking as if I was a customer, of course. I don't care whether you are a good match for business customers. I know you are, but I don't mind, and I don't want. I want someone who is very, very specific. If I am traveling with my partner, my wife, my girlfriend, whatsoever, or even more so with my children, I don't have children, but in case, if I'm traveling with the children and I land on your site and you are so focused on talking about how good you are to make me feel happy as a father, well, then probably, well, actually high chances that I'm going to get to your hotel as opposed to all others. And more likely I'm going to get to your brand.com website to make a booking as opposed to the OTAs. So you see how many things, but okay, I'm sorry to be, to disappoint you, because I know you probably expect one big thing. I cannot say one big thing, many different smaller things.
Honestly, I was expecting that magic bullet, to just come here so that everybody gets
it. Yeah, well, maybe I can tell you which is something that I totally don't believe in, probably, so I don't know, the pricing comparison tool, something like that. Many people actually fall into this scam of thinking, okay, that is going to fix my distribution
rate shopping tool,
situation.
basically.
Rate shopping, yeah, well, rate shopping tool is one thing, is very similar, okay, rate shopping tool. I'm talking really about the price comparison tool or widget that you place on the website that to compare your price as opposed to booking experience whatsoever. There is actually, I've seen many cases where direct bookings became indirect bookings, and that's a little bit of a situation. But those are, I'm not necessarily against those tools. What I'm saying is that they're sound too easy, and when they sound too easy to be good, it's because they're not good. I really mean it. They're not good. When they sound so good, they're so easy to be good, they're not so good. And sorry for that. It was not very.
No, I think I hope the participants being able to pick up a few nuggets from there to use as a strategy for getting direct customers. But this evolution of a new guest or a new traveler who's looking at touchless experiences, and every hotel is talking about an experience right now. So my question is to Aditya that the impact of a bring your own device, how is it impacting the guest behavior? One, in terms of expecting the services that the hotel has to offer. Hospitality always has been more touch and feel kind of greetings, touch and feel kind of a thing, but now that's all out of the window, and everybody's carrying their own device. And you being a hotelier, how is it impacting service standards or expectations?
This is where the problem is in India, because especially the aging population in India, they are not device friendly. Now, to understand both of our hotels specifically, they're not new age. Claridge's New Delhi was built in 1955. It's an older hotel. Mussoorie, the property was the palace of the Mussoorie royal family. It's been there for some time. So you have people who are traveling again and again, and they're not very, very device friendly. At the same time, now you have this generation who are about 40s. They're very, very, very comfortable with devices, etc. We are in a transition mode right now as far as our hotel is concerned. Claridge's was something else. mycloud was the first thing to do. We changing to touchless. The menus are the first thing that we've changed into a paperless environment. But at the same time, the purpose gets defeated at times because people end up still asking you because they want that paper menu irrespective of anything. At the same time, and this is an observation that has come from the front desk and the restaurant chaps. Indians are behaving very weird. I think after this third wave, Indians just don't care about COVID. As far as they're wearing the mask, their behavior, I think people have just had enough fatigue of COVID repeated occasions. People just want to go and enjoy. And they just want the normal, what was there before, to come back. So we had this, which every hotel had this plexiglass screen on the reception, etc. We realized very quickly what was happening is, now you had the screen, eventually guests would avoid the screen, come to the side and speak to you. What's the point of having the screen if the guest will come to the side and speak to you anyway? So we rather chose to create a little distance. We basically enhance the depth of the front desk so that the distance is kind of maintained, but we removed the plexiglass. There was no point of doing it. Again, at the restaurant, servers used to wear the face shield, everything. The guests often, and then we received a lot of backlash. Guests could not hear what this guy was saying or this server was saying because you had a face shield, you had double layer masks, and then when you're speaking, nobody can listen to whatever you're trying to say. We've had our share of disasters, is what I would say. Having said that, so we've removed the face shield, but we've maintained the double masks. It's basically you're trying to save the staff and the guests at the same time. You are trying not to mar the experience of the entire thing because I was meeting a guest day before yesterday, and the guest said, "You know what? With the masks, we don't know who are we speaking with. All we can see is your eyes." And we're not used to. And this couple that I was speaking to, they would be about mid-50s. They're smiling, but they were saying this, and that's the reality, and that's how we are. Yeah, you can have contactless. Obviously, technology, contactless check-in, great. We're using that for mycloud. Great tool. But at the same time, how do you explain it to the authorities that you still require a signature on a registration card? Because Delhi,
it's the law. Yes, statutory requirement. Yes.
So again, it defeats the purpose if you're doing a contactless check-in and you're asking for a signature on a piece of paper. What is the contactless? But at the same time, if you used it to a certain manner where the entire payment cycle now is gone to without touching the card itself. Either you have a tap and pay, or we can send you the payment link on your phone using the PMS as the tool. You can scan a QR code and pay. But I think typically the card swipes or cash is almost zero now. But even the card swipes would not be more than 20-25% of the transactions taken place at. In fact, guests are happier to pay in advance when the cancellation policy hits in, so that they don't have to get into all of that hassle. So yeah, there's a behavior change, definitely.
Right. That's an interesting insight. Everybody's expecting to be normal to be back. I don't know what is the definition of a normal or a new normal in that case, but as hospitality, and me not directly, but you certainly being, uh, safety and hygiene, I think, is utmost important right now, because so many people are throwing away everything to win, saying that okay, everything is normal. I don't want hotels to start becoming epicenter of virus and spreading it, because if they be, and that's a place that is there are so many people in a small area. They're all there. But Alessandro, I have a question based on the same, what Aditya said was the guest expectations. That is in terms of when they're in the hotel, but you handle so much digitally for the hotels, and you're helping them, increase their performances. So you come across these personas of people who are there either, through the bookings or in terms of shopping carts or abandoned shopping carts, and based on their journey for a reservation that's happening. What do you think a traveler of 2022 is looking forward to? What is the expectation from a hotel?
Well, I mean, in terms of expectation, I really cannot say, in the sense that it's such an evolving situation. I tend to believe what we have just all discussed and what we all agreed on, in the sense that we have all, ever since the pandemic hit, we have all fallen into the probably limiting belief of thinking that people were so much concerned about the healthy safety and all these kind of features. And by the way, I'm not saying that they're not important, but just like Aditya said, probably now, after having been for so long locked up, now they just want to give up all that stuff and feel the freedom again. And therefore, giving up on all these kind of things and having a little bit of frugality, and also a little bit of traveling with not so much overthinking in their head. That is what I expect. I think this has already started last year in 2021, where I don't necessarily know the Indian market, but I know other markets where, for example, the booking window totally shrunk completely. So the time that elapses between the initial search and the final booking, before, let's say it was 30 days, and now it was 15 or even less. So it was literally that decrease. I'm just saying in absolute number, just example, but just to mention that in percent, there was actually a very, 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 very big decrease. And that to me is a very clear indication of people just waiting to get into the right conditions of traveling, and then boom, travel. So, all right, that is the very, very shortened period of time that we have, or that we can play with, in order to have an impact. And having an impact, therefore, becomes a little bit more difficult. However, even though the search window, booking window, call it the way you want, has shrunk, the number of interaction between the user and the hotel, meaning the number of times that they visit the website, the number of times they visit the social media pages and so on, has not shrunk the same way, all right? It's just compressed in a shorter period of time. And so that's why, even more importantly, we need to be very, very much faster at reacting to the current situation with, for example, specific retargeting campaign, if we want to make an example, or anyway, again, it's just an example, but we need to be very, 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 to the point, and very, very, very attentive to what is happening, and acting accordingly, and not being afraid of making changes. And when we don't know what to do something. And I really mean it, because one of the biggest problem, I think, in my opinion, we always had as an industry, even before COVID, is that there are so many options. We feel so much overwhelmed. We don't know what to do, ending up in doing nothing. And that's a little bit of a problem. Currently, this is really the biggest challenge. So even when we don't know anything, when we don't have all of the data that we need to have in order to take the right decision, at some point, just guess and go by heart. I know it's very difficult to accept, especially for revenue managers. So allow me, bear with me for that. But this is really the situation. Do something. Stability in the sense of not moving is a problem. and we cannot afford to pay.
That's an interesting insight, Alessandro, that eyeballs on the website are the same, but it's just that the booking window has shrunk so much. But I think it's just that the situation is so fluid that nobody knows. So the moment they see an opportunity, they say, okay, there we go. One
Right.
last question I have, and that's, I think I would ask both of you, is that in my presentation, I had mentioned the Blair Traveler, where they are trying to mix the business and layer. I mean, in India, I mean, how popular that is, and of course, you probably would have idea about Thailand and other countries that your customers are. How popular is that concept, and is it really catching up?
It was already catching up before, and I am one of them. If you consider me as a location independent / digital nomads, we are those kind of people who travel and work, or work and travel. Just put first whatever you want, depending on the mood, depending on the day. But it's literally there are literally no burdens between working and enjoying, let's put it this way, or traveling for leisure. Hotels probably are not there yet, let's put it this way, or the shift from being a business to being leisure and to be both of them is not as easy as it may sound. But there are a few things that, in my opinion, hotels can do that are not necessarily related to rooms. So one of the things, I mean, probably even obvious example that I made is that turn your meeting rooms into co-working areas. I mean, it's literally that simple, because people traveling around don't work from home, and I'm one of them. I'm talking generally, I'm generalizing probably too much, for the very simple reason that if by doing so, you will end up staying at home 24 hours a day, and it's not necessarily good. Sometimes you want to go out, and more importantly, just to interact with other people, other professional, other business people, or just even having a coffee in the same time next to some other people. And I think not necessarily meeting rooms, but even lobbies where you have bigger space. So, very, very open space. Of course, that depends on the single hotel. If you can turn them into, some sort of co-working, or anyway, even a cafe, when people even from outside, they can get in and enjoy and mix up with people with people living in the hotel or staying at the hotel. I think it's quite a powerful concept. There is a chain, a small chain in Austria, actually in Vienna, who did that specifically, and they're having an incredibly good actually success with that sense. And they literally transform their lobbies and even the meeting rooms in some sort of, co-working areas, mini offices or open space offices. And that is also one of the reasons why they got so much more new customers coming there, staying there even for a few nights or probably even longer, because that's the right environment, right? That they have a place to stay, to live. They also have a place to work, and they can interact with the local community. It's perfect. It's literally perfect. And me being one of those people, I can literally say, go that way. I mean, I will then actually endorse.
Right.
And if you want to, ping me just to ask a suggestion, whatever, just do it, because it's also something that I really like and I'm very passionate about. But yeah, that's my pleasure thing.
I definitely like that. Alessandro's statement that, do something, don't just sit idle, do something.
Do something.
Do something.
Yeah, it's,
Right.
it's always a test. Whenever we say there is always a testing phase. A testing phase never ends. There is a never ending phase.
What's your experience been, Aditya?
Oh, our experience has been actually tremendous, and it's been great. Claridges has a small lawn area in the front of it, and we actually realized that, like Alessandro, there are a lot of people who just want to go out of their places because there's been a lot of isolation, and India had the first lockdown was one of the most grueling in the world.
Right.
And the second wave that we had massive death tolls. So people was scarred for life, whatever, etc., etc. So we ended up. What we did was a very simple thing. The garden area already, or the lawn area already had tables with a canopy top. All we did was simply enclose them, put an air conditioner on it. Immediately, anybody and everybody who walked in realized that you could sit on that, work the entire day, see the lawn, see the people, hear the birds chirping, and stay in the hotel. So imagine this thing. We started this with just 5 canopies, cabanas that we did. Within 15 days, we realized that we need to convert more of them.
More faces.
And we did not realize, and that's where the demand, we did not realize. So we had people sitting for 7 hours just ordering 2 cups of coffee.
Wow.
Then we realized that, dude, this doesn't work.
It's not monetizing.
So we put a cover charge on it. But exactly what you're saying. So Claridges is blessed that way. Is we've got multiple locations within the hotel where people can sit. The poolside has shade, so
Right.
people can sit there and work. And our average length of stay is actually sitting at 4.2 right now, which is very unheard of for a city center hotel. But I know the reasons being it is we've got those locations where people can sit and work. Why? All they require is an electricity connection to charge the laptops and a Wi-Fi.
That's
You
about it.
get them right, everything can work.
Just the electrical plugs, that is one of the biggest pain points that is always difficult.
full
Once
wires.
you have them, you actually fix a problem and you created a real benefit, and a decent internet connection. But I mean, seriously, if you think of a hotel lobby full of people, or like all these people, isn't it just beautiful? Even if for a walking guest or a check-in guest, I mean, a guest who booked or whatever, walking in and seeing a lobby full of people, isn't it better than walking in a hotel in which a lobby is totally empty? There is also one tiny little thing, a perception that I think it's a huge, exactly, mentally speaking, makes a huge difference.
It associates with life. You look at this place, it's really buzzing.
Exactly.
All right, thank you very much. I don't have more questions, but we're going to take questions from the participants. And I have one already, which says, this is from Prateek Dhanak. He says, from booking.com, we are facing more false bookings. Because of that, we are facing problem. How we can get help with that? So I think that it's a very real life scenario wherein I can go on to booking.com and I can go ahead and make a booking without paying a penny. And they give you that model. And finally, if I'm not decided, I will take that option. And the hotel is stuck because that may be a no-show, but they have already blocked the inventory for that. How do you think they can really come out of it? And what could be a solution to that? It's a very dicey kind of I mean, you can't really ignore that because then you're saying goodbye to all those customers. They can be genuine, who don't want to pay it online, but want to go down to the hotel and actually pay for it. How do you separate that? The genuine guest or what possibly? I think, Aditya, what do you say that what would be the solution?
There is no magic bullet to this. To be honest, the answer isn't very straightforward. I would recommend to Prateek is that, first of all, please link your deeper discounts to more restricted cancellation policies. Do not fall for that. I would say the pitch that OTAs say that you will get more business for refundable, etc. Yes, fine, let it be refundable. Look at your lead time, booking lead time. Make sure that you're pushing it with your deeper discounts. Let's say if you're saying last minute deal, if you're activating it 72 hours prior, ensure that your cancellation policy for that particular rate plan is 72 hours, so that you at least have the time to recover. You can cancel a non-guaranteed reservation or a false reservation and you can recover. It totally depends upon what your cancellation rules are, but I would always recommend everybody have a stiffer cancellation policy. Discount needs to have a stiffer cancellation policy. If you are you've not mentioned your hotel location, etc. So if your hotel is a city center hotel, typically you would be able to recover within 24 hours. If not, if you're at a leisure destination, please ensure that you push. It depends upon your hotel's natural booking window. You need to make that judgment call. And honestly, it is changing. Month on month, I see a different pattern altogether. For example, December of 2021, when we started the hotel, a hotel like Claridge's, which is a city center hotel, we already had 55% business on books. We started the month with that. That's why we reached to where we reached. February, even though traditionally February is a great month for Delhi hotels, February was a flop with the expectations per se. March at double what we started February with. So you need to be very flexible, looking at your lead time, looking at your cancellations, and change it. It's not booking.com's fault. That is the USP of booking.com.
They got to sell. I can completely understand. So
you
I
signed
think
up with them, you signed up with that.
Point well made that, tag it to your cancellation policy in the period that you can really observe and cushion yourself. I have another one question which says, and this is from Hijaz, it's to both host and panelists. Could you show or give me a hotel website with current trends that the panelists discussed, please?
Yeah, I can share anyway some websites. Shall I do it like offline? Do you want me to type the website here in the chat
Yeah,
box?
if you can just put it in the chat, I think they would get it. Meanwhile, I have another one question from Deepak Bahal. How do we manage the hotels with large inventory, and on weekends we see higher demand for leisure travelers and weekdays corporate?
I think what Deepak Bell is talking about here is whatever location his hotel is in, it's a large inventory, and B, it has clear segmentations in terms of work weekdays of company and weekends of leisure per se. I would only say off the cuff of what I can think of is if you want to capture more business in terms of leisure, corporates are very, very easy. You need to drive your sales team to get that, because typically corporates do not operate through booking from a website or direct, etc. Sales does get involved somewhere. In terms of the weekend demand, you need to have a nimble enough staff where you change the way your rate positioning goes, create packages, create value adds for people to come and enjoy, whether it is great F&B, if your hotel does it, I don't know, maybe children's evenings on a Saturdays, I don't know there could be thousands of reasons or thousands of answers to this. This is the location of the particular hotel.
So if the question is to get more traffic, more demand in order to boost the occupancy on weekends, that is again where you start with, well, first of all, you should know the data, meaning how much, for example, in advance more likely people book when it comes to booking weekends, because that is the point where in theory you should start marketing your hotel with many different ways. There are 1,000 different ways, and not even 100,000 different ways. It can be with social media interaction, social media advertising, or PPC, or whatsoever. And therefore, I mean, usually you try two areas. So first, you go out in an attempt to hunt new traffic, and the second step is try to retarget those traffic eventually, and having them booked. I'm not sure if that was the question though. So whether the point was actually getting more.
Makes sense. That definitely makes sense. The next one is a very interesting question. I hope, Deepak, you got the reply to your question. If not, please, you could make another one comment. That's from Ivy Parka. And I think in a sense, I will tell you the question is basically it's on rate parity, subject that I was ignoring. Is that how do you get that customer back onto your website when on a website you have a standard rate published and an OTA is trying to undercut that rate but providing services or deep discounts in that case?
Again, there are hundreds, thousands options. If you want to have let's say an easy one, just make the most of the billboard effect by, for example, instead of undercutting your rates immediately and therefore, having your direct price cheaper as opposed to the OTAs in the first site, you may want to eventually offer a discount on a later stage with a promo code. It can be a discount code or a promo code in retargeting, meaning People visiting your website for the first time, they see the same price as they saw on booking.com or Expedia whatsoever. The very moment they leave the website, start retargeting them. So you can use Google, you can use Facebook, you can even use email if you have their email address. In that email address, sorry, in that message, you will promote what is a discount code, and therefore you are retargeting to them, giving them a good chance to come back and book direct. And that is simple as that, how you can do it very easily, quickly. It costs a little bit, of course, because advertising is advertising, but retargeting is a very cheap advertising. So it's, I mean, it's totally
Yeah,
doable.
it's far cheaper than standard Google ads, and the chances of him coming back are far higher. And you'd certainly save on your commissions that you're going to be, giving out to the OTAs. What's your take, Aditya, on that?
I've already said one part of the promo codes. The second part is what we effectively use. If you don't want to discount the price per se, not disturb the rate parity, if that's what your call is, that's fine. But ensure that you give the value inclusions. So, for example, if somebody is booking through an OTA, if that price is, let's say, of a bed and breakfast, ensure that that person is on a half board where you include the dinner. We had tremendous success. We had this concept called as a liquid buffet, where if you pay 2,400 Indian rupees, you get Indian-made foreign liquor, unlimited, as much as you can drink. That's per person. We put that in our website, on our booking engine. We ran an entire marketing program around it through the social media handles, etc., etc. So when I said we are at 30% direct, they are consequence of that, where with a value inclusion at the same rate. So for a guest, the perspective is that at 24, let's say double occupancy, 4,800. If my rate was 6,000 rupees, effectively I'm getting a value discount of 4,800 rupees at 6,000 rupees. Whereas if I book through an OTA, I pay 6,000, I have to pay additionally for that more. There are many ways to do it. So another which I'm experimenting with right now is, I do not know how many hoteliers do that, but you can claim your Google location pins, map pin. And once you've verified yourself, claimed yourself, you can enable a chat mode on Google Maps.
Right. I don't think many people are aware of that. That's a beautiful tool, actually.
Yeah. So in the past, so I did this activity in September, where we've accumulated all the various restaurant brands that we have, plus the hotel, and we've seen some tremendous amount of success. India has a concept called Easy Diner, etc., for your restaurant bookings. They also charge you a steep commission amount. So again, that is how the behavior has changed, where people simply message you on Google. You need to have somebody to respond back. Now it's fastest finger first. You need to respond within 10 minutes, because a person does not have patience more than 10 minutes. You need to be up on your game to respond back. And believe me, the conversions across board, whether it is a restaurant or the hotel, have improved at least 30% by being there. Yes, you have to do that effort of claiming your location pin, of getting your Google page correctly, correct photographs, the owner photographs. You do all of that bit and enable the chat. Trust me, you're going to get a lot of business, direct business to yourself.
But you need somebody to monitor that. Otherwise, all of that is just...
Well, if you want salary, so you should want to.
You should do that. True. You nailed it. I don't see any more questions. So I want to thank you. You, in fact, exceeded our time too. Thank you very much, Alessandro and Aditya, for being part of this webinar. It was really informative, and there are quite a few interesting things that came out of it. The CRM, the booking engine, is definitely a top on my list over here, selling based on the attributes, the dynamic content, and targeting that based on the personas that are being created on your own channels, communication, and of course, packaging all of the thing for the player travel as such. So thank you very much. I'm sure our participant enjoyed that. So we're going to share the details of our panelists with you guys. And, if you have still further questions, you can always reach out to them. Thank you very much for joining this webinar. And thank you, Alessandro. And thank you, Aditya.
Thanks
Thank
to
you.
you. Thanks for having
All
me.
right.
Thank you.
Bye. Bye.